The smart speaker's voice cut through the darkness of my Austin apartment at exactly 6:47 a.m. "Good morning, seizure girl. Hope you enjoyed your wake-up call." I was already on the kitchen floor by then, blood pooling beneath my head where it had struck the granite countertop. The last thing I remembered before the fall was my smartphone screen, erupting into a strobing nightmare, 20 flashes per second, the exact frequency my neurologist had warned me about since my epilepsy diagnosis at 16. The LED lights throughout my smart home had synchronized into a photosensitive seizure trigger, and my brother Ryan knew it. 3 hours later, I sat in Del Seaton Medical Center's ER with 8 stitches across my forehead, watching my parents FaceTime Ryan instead of asking how I felt. "Don't worry, honey," my mother Margaret cooed into her phone. "You know Olivia always exaggerates her medical issues for attention." The attending physician, Dr. Rodriguez, had just finished explaining that head trauma combined with seizure activity could have killed me, but Margaret was more concerned about damage control for Ryan's brand. "Mom," I said quietly, "he hacked my smart home system. This wasn't an accident." David, my father, didn't even look up from his phone where he was reading Ryan's latest YouTube comments. "Olivia, you've always been too sensitive about your brother's pranks. Remember when you were 16? I remembered. Ryan had infected my laptop with a virus that destroyed my entire senior project. 3 months of work on a computer science scholarship application. While I cried over the lost data, my parents used the insurance money to buy Ryan a new MacBook Pro for his future content creation career. I got a refurbished Dell and a lecture about building character through adversity. That pattern continued through college. When I graduated summa cum laude from UT Austin with a computer science degree, my family spent my graduation day filming Ryan's reaction video titled, "My Sister Finally Graduated LOL." 50,000 viewers watched him mock my academic achievements while I stood alone in my cap and gown. "She took 4 years for a CS degree," Ryan had told his camera. "I made 6 figures dropping out sophomore year. Different kinds of smart, I guess." Now, at 29, I was a cybersecurity engineer at CyberShield Security. I lived in a converted warehouse in East Austin, drove a paid-off Honda Civic, and had built a smart home system that I'd coded myself. But apparently, none of that mattered when Ryan needed content. Back in my apartment that evening, I opened my router's admin panel with the methodical precision that had made me good at my job. The logs told a story my family didn't want to hear. Unauthorized device access, 47 sessions over the past 2 months, all from a Dallas IP address, Ryan's location. The most recent login occurred at 3:22 a.m., just hours before my accident. Someone had spent weeks learning my smart home's architecture, mapping every connected device, studying my routines. My phone buzzed with the Harper Family Quick group chat. Ryan. Heard Sissy had a little tumble. Maybe stick to analog clocks. Margaret. Boys will be boys. At least you're okay, David. Saw Ryan's new sponsor deal with tech gear. So proud. I screenshot the conversation, noting the timestamp. Ryan had posted about my accident at 6:52 a.m., 5 minutes after it happened, before anyone had called to tell him. He'd been watching. 47 times, I thought, scrolling through the access logs. He'd been practicing. The next morning brought a notification that made my blood freeze. Pranking my sister's epilepsy. Gone wrong. Ryan Tech Reviews. I was at my desk at CyberShield when the video went live. By lunch, it had 2.8 million views. Ryan had edited the security footage from my apartment's cameras he'd accessed without permission, to make my seizure look like hysterical overreacting. The comments were a cesspool of ableism and misogyny. But in his arrogance, Ryan had made a crucial mistake. At the 3:47 mark, while demonstrating his harmless prank, his phone screen was visible for 2 seconds. My smart home control app was open, logged in with my credentials. The video's climax showed me convulsing on my kitchen floor while Ryan's voiceover provided commentary. Some people just can't handle modern technology. Maybe she should stick to flip phones and candles. An hour later, I was called into our glass conference room where CEO James Carter and 3 board members waited with grim expressions. "Olivia," James said, "how do we tell clients our cybersecurity engineer couldn't secure her own home from her brother's prank?" The company's stock had dropped 12% since the video went viral. 3 major clients had called questioning whether CyberShield could protect their data if we couldn't protect our own employees. I cleared my throat. "With respect, James, I wasn't pranked. I was assaulted using my own technology against me." "Can you prove that?" asked board member Patricia Wong. I could. But first, I had to survive Sunday dinner. My extended family gathered at Aunt Linda's house in Cedar Park like they did every month, but this time felt different. 15 relatives arranged themselves in the living room like a tribunal, all wearing expressions of disappointment directed at me. "Ryan's always been our little entertainer," Aunt Linda began. "You're hurting his brand with all this drama." Cousin Mike nodded agreement. "My wife would have laughed it off. It's just sibling stuff." Uncle Bob crossed his arms. "In my day, we handled family problems in-house." But it was my mother who delivered the killing blow. "Olivia, you're 29. When are you going to stop being so sensitive about everything?" The room fell silent. Everyone stared at me, waiting for the familiar capitulation, the apology, the shrinking back into invisibility that had defined my role in this family for 3 decades. Instead, I stood up. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice carrying the authority I'd learned in boardrooms and courtrooms. "I'm supposed to apologize for getting assaulted?" The word hung in the air like a grenade. Margaret's face flushed. "Assault? Olivia, don't be dramatic. It was a harmless..." He triggered a medical emergency using knowledge of my specific neurological condition. I interrupted. "That's not a prank. That's attempted murder." David stood up, his face red. "Your epilepsy has always been a burden on this family. Ryan's career is worth more than your hurt feelings." The room erupted in agreement, voices overlapping in a chorus of gaslighting I'd heard my entire life. But this time, I wasn't listening to their words. I was watching their faces, memorizing every person who chose to defend my attacker because we shared DNA. "If you don't fix this," David continued, "you're no longer our daughter." I smiled, not with warmth, but with the cold precision of someone who'd finally found clarity. "Deal," I said, and walked out. Sarah Martinez's law office in downtown Austin specialized in technology crimes, and Sarah herself specialized in cases where families weaponized gaslighting against victims. When I spread my evidence folder across her conference table, recognition flickered in her dark eyes. "My own family pulled similar shit when my uncle sexually assaulted me at 15, she said matter-of-factly. "Let me guess, they're calling you dramatic, oversensitive, and selfish for ruining the family dynamic." "Word for word," I confirmed. Sarah opened my Reuter logs, her expression growing more serious with each page. "Texas Penal Code 3302 covers computer crimes. Unauthorized access with intent to harm is a felony. And since he triggered a medical emergency, we can add assault causing bodily injury under 22.01. But he's family," I said, testing the words I'd heard my entire life. "Family isn't a legal defense for assault," Sarah replied sharply. "Would you like to know how we're going to destroy him?" Detective James Wong of Austin PD's Cybercrime Unit had built the department's digital forensics capability from the ground up. In his sophisticated lab, surrounded by servers and analysis equipment, he methodically dissected my case. 47 unauthorized access sessions, Wong read from his monitor, all from devices registered to Ryan Harper in Dallas. "The attack pattern shows deliberate research into your smart home architecture." But the most damning evidence was what Ryan had deleted. Wong's forensic tools recovered Instagram DMs between Ryan and his friend Marcus from 3 days before the attack. Ryan, watch this. Gonna fuck with Olivia's house while she sleeps. Marcus, dude, that's kinda dark. Ryan, she's had it coming. Always acting superior with her fancy degree. Marcus, what if she gets hurt? Ryan, that's the point. LOL. Wong leaned back in his chair. This isn't a prank. Olivia, this is digital assault with premeditation, and I think we can prove he researched your specific medical triggers. He pulled up Ryan's Google search history, subpoenaed from his cloud backup. Photosensitive epilepsy triggers. Seizure frequency OCHIs. How to cause seizure with lights. He didn't just hack you, Wong continued. He studied how to hurt you most effectively. The smoking gun came from an unexpected source, my neighbor's Ring doorbell camera. Sarah had requested footage from every apartment in my building, and Mrs. Chen's camera across the hallway captured something extraordinary. At 3:15 a.m. on the morning of my attack, a white Tesla Model 3 with license plate RINT3CH was parked outside my building. The timestamp matched my router logs exactly. Ryan had driven 3 hours from Dallas to be physically present during his digital assault. But the camera caught more than his arrival. It showed Ryan in his car, testing equipment, a laptop, signal booster, and smartphone, running what appeared to be my smart home app. He'd come prepared with hardware to ensure his attack would succeed. He didn't just hack you remotely, Sarah explained as we reviewed the footage. He came here to make sure it worked. The final piece of evidence came from Dr. Patricia Chen at Austin Epilepsy Clinic, who reviewed my medical records and the technical specifications of Ryan's attack. 20 Hz frequency during a low-light transition period is textbook methodology for triggering photosensitive seizures. Dr. Chen explained via video call. This isn't accidental. Someone specifically researched your neurological vulnerability. She paused, checking her notes. I also see here that at your family's Christmas gathering, a young man asked detailed questions about your epilepsy triggers, claiming curiosity about medical conditions. You noted his name as Ryan. My stomach dropped. He was gathering intelligence. Someone specifically targeted your neurological weakness. Dr. Quinn said gravely, Ms. Harper. This was attempted murder, not a prank. I forced one final family dinner at my parents' house in Round Rock, bringing Sarah as my friend. The Harper family dining room, with its gallery wall of photos featuring Ryan prominently and me peripherally, would serve as the setting for our reckoning. I need to show you all something, I said, connecting my laptop to their smart TV. The evidence unfolded like a prosecutor's closing argument, router logs showing 47 unauthorized access sessions, security camera footage of Ryan's 3 a.m. surveillance mission, his deleted messages planning the attack, his Google searches for seizure-inducing frequencies. Margaret's face drained of color as the weight of evidence mounted. David sat in stunned silence, but Ryan, present via FaceTime, grew increasingly desperate. I was just messing around, he stammered. It was supposed to be funny content. You researched seizure triggers at Christmas dinner, I said, letting each word land with surgical precision. You spent weeks mapping my smart home system. You drove 3 hours to ensure your attack succeeded. The room was silent except for the sound of Ryan's heavy breathing through the phone speaker. You didn't prank me, Ryan, I continued. You tried to kill me for content. Margaret finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Ryan, what did you do? But I wasn't finished. And every single person in this room chose to defend him instead of protecting me. You gaslit me for weeks, called me dramatic and oversensitive, threatened to disown me for seeking justice. I stood up, gathering my evidence. So I'm making it easy for you. I'm disowning you first. 3 months later, Travis County Courthouse buzzed with media attention as Ryan Harper, tech influencer with 85,000 YouTube subscribers, pleaded guilty to avoid trial. The charges? Class A misdemeanor computer crimes, Class A misdemeanor assault causing bodily injury, and civil liability for damages. His sentence, $75,000 restitution, 1 year probation with mandatory mental health treatment, and a permanent restraining order. More importantly, the conviction triggered morality clauses in his sponsorship contracts. Tech Gear, Samsung, and 4 other major brands dropped him immediately. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked, "How does it feel to see justice served?" "It feels like breathing again," I replied. Local news ran the story with the headline, "Tech influencer arrested for hacking sister's smart home." The case became a watershed moment for smart home security awareness and family cybercrime legislation. 6 months later, I sat in my new office, Harper IoT Security Consulting, reviewing a contract with a Fortune 500 client. My company specialized in smart home security audits, and business was booming. High-profile celebrities and executives, all concerned about digital privacy and family threats, sought my expertise. I'd become a sought-after speaker on the conference circuit. My keynote, "The Case That Changed Smart Home Security," consistently selling out. Tech podcasts competed to interview the woman who turned family trauma into cybersecurity innovation. My parents had reached out, offering genuine apologies and begging for reconciliation. We met occasionally for coffee, rebuilding our relationship with strict boundaries, no financial support for Ryan, no dismissing my concerns, equal treatment or no contact. "We failed you for 29 years, Margaret had said during our first meeting. "How do we earn forgiveness?" "By never making me small again," I'd replied. That evening, as I performed my nightly security ritual in my new smart home, a fortress of encryption and access controls, my phone chimed with a text from a potential client. "My brother is threatening to hack my house and expose my private life. My family says I'm overreacting. Can you help?" I smiled, typing back, "I specialize in exactly this situation. Let's schedule a consultation." The smart home security system display glowed reassuringly. "All systems secure. Welcome home, Olivia." I'd learned that family isn't about unconditional forgiveness or blood loyalty. It's about respect earned and boundaries defended. Some wars are worth fighting, even against blood. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones who need to be stopped. Ryan had taught me that technology could be weaponized by those closest to us, but I'd learned something he never expected. The same technology that made me vulnerable could also make me powerful. Justice doesn't always come from courtrooms or family reconciliation. Sometimes it comes from refusing to be small, from building something meaningful from the wreckage of betrayal, and from protecting others who face the same choice I once did. When family becomes the enemy, how far would you go for justice? I went as far as necessary, and I'd do it again. The question that haunts me isn't whether I made the right choice. It's how many other people are living in smart homes controlled by family members who see them as content, not people. How many sisters are being called dramatic for recognizing danger? How many daughters are being gaslit for demanding basic respect? Technology evolves faster than wisdom, but sometimes one person's refusal to stay silent can change everything.